Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.
Welcome to Just a Jew. I'm your host, Arthur Malik. This is part 2 of our segment with Johnnie Bunting Jr. We just want to get into his mind again because he has an awesome mind. So we just want to ask him a couple of more questions. You were incarcerated for 25 years. What was it like at the parole board, and how many parole boards did you attend?
I went to 4 parole boards. My first one, I was in general population for that. I was in a medium. I only made it to 1 medium. I went to the parole board. People told me that when you get your decision, if the envelope is thick, then you have an appeal form and all that, so you're getting a denial. So I go to the parole board and they asked me if I did the crime. I told them, I'm not going to answer that because I currently have litigation on it.
Wow. That was your first parole board?
Yeah, that was my first parole board.
So you definitely got hit. No doubt about that.
But the funny thing is, I mean, it wasn't funny then, but when I got my decision, the envelope wasn't thick. They didn't change the way that they give decisions. The appeal form was 1 page, so I had 2 pages, the decision and the appeal form. So I get a skinny envelope. I'm thinking, I don't know, I might have did it. I finally made it to a medium. Mm-hmm. I go to the parole board. No, 2 years. Now, I went to the parole board. Something happened where they started pushing people's parole boards up 2 months.
2 months, okay.
No, I was supposed to go in May.
6
I ended
months,
up going in January. So yeah, I got a 4-month push-up. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the board in January 2009. I got hit with 2 years. But for my second board, they pushed it up again. Mm-hmm. So I went to the board in December 2010. So I went to the board the next calendar year, right, but at the end of the year. Right. But like 2 weeks after I got hit in 2009, I went to the box. And I've been in the box ever since. So when I went to the board in 2010, I knew I wasn't, because I had 9 years of SHU time. Right. So it was nonviolent. They basically was giving me tickets because there was some type of a trend going on dealing with sovereignty. Mm-hmm. And being in a, what do they call it? I forgot the name of it, but secured party creditors. So I learned that. I learned it so good that I was able to teach people, and they didn't like that. Right. I utilized that, and I put a lien on the parole board. I put a lien on assistant attorney general, and so they gave me a bunch of years in the box to think about it. So third board, I thought, I still was going to the board, and they asked me, did I do it? I got litigation. So when I was getting ready for my 4th board, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my letters like I did before. Now I got 2 novels, Son of Solomon and Enterprise Corruption, that I started with my own imprint, my own publishing. So I put information on that I have that. Let you know that I'm going to be an asset to the community. When I went to the parole board, and they asked me, did you do it? Yes, I did it. Those times revisited me, and I thought about it, and I'm like, listen, I can't get rid of this until I own it.
Take responsibility.
Yeah, so I told them, yeah, I did it. They asked me what happened. I said he robbed me, which is the truth, and I got him back. But what he took from me is not equal to what I took from him. So I can't give him that back. The $155 he took from me, I got that back plenty of times. So I felt good about just finally acknowledging it. And then they asked me stuff about, what are you going to do when you go home? What do you have going for you? So I'm like, I got these books. I'm trying to push these books. I have family that's supportive, and they were supportive, and I have that motivation. I want to do good. I want to go out there and I want to talk to people. I want to tell kids that, listen, if you want to be like me, read a book. Like, you don't have to live the life. There's plenty of books and TV programs and stuff where you can sit in the comfort of your own home and feel the excitement. And at the end of the day, you get to go to sleep when you want, take a bath when you want, and move around as you please. Because if you go and try to live that life, your life will be an 8 by 10. So there it was. I waited for a couple of days, and they was coming around with the decisions. They come around with decisions at mail time. And I remember this day really good because it was a Friday. And Shark Tank used to come on. I used to love listening to Shark Tank. So I was in my cell. I got the decision, but I wouldn't open it because that thick thing, I knew that didn't matter.
Yeah.
I got a thin one, doesn't matter. So I put it to the side. I'm like, listen, I want to listen to Shark Tank. And if I get denied, I'm not going to enjoy it. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to listen to Shark Tank, work out, get myself all tired so that when I get the bad news, I could just go to bed. So, you know, guys was asking, like, did you get the decision? No, I didn't get it yet. So I did that. Listened to Shark Tank. I worked out, got myself all sweaty, washed up, sat on the bed, crossed my legs, and then opened it up. And it had multiple pages. So I was like, that's not a good thing. But it had a cover letter on top of it. So like I feel the emotion now even talking about it because I hadn't cried in a bunch of years. Mm-hmm. And it said, I can't quote it all the way, but it was like, dear Mr. Bunting, congratulations. And when I saw that, it's like the tears just started welling in my eyes. But I finished reading that sentence. And it said that I was being released. And I broke down. And I don't mean the regular just break down like, oh. And then guys was laughing because they hear a bunch of noise and they laughing. And then somebody was like, because they still was calling me Force. Somebody was like, yo, hold on a second. That's Force. So what's up? Yo. So the dudes is calling me and yo, I'm crying and yelling. And I was like, yo, they let me go. And then dudes start banging and yelling and making noise. And I was like, yo, that'd be messed up. They finally let me go. I mess around and die right here because I can't breathe.
I know someone that happened to.
Yeah.
Chill. That happened to Chill.
So it was like, now it's time to get myself ready for part 2, like the reawakening, reintroduce myself, reinvent myself. Now, all the times I sat here and I talked about what I'm going to do, now let's be about it. So I'm like, okay, I got these books. All these days I used to look in the mirror and say, I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm going home. I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be successful. What is that, all for nothing? Like, now let's get ready, let's do something.
But were you apprehensive? Even when you made the parole board, I know I was still a little apprehensive because I was out of society for so long. And I was fearful of somewhat of even going home. Was you anywhat apprehensive of going home?
I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, meaning the unknown, you have a fear of the unknown. No, meaning I wanted to get the hell out of Southport. So it was like, I need to get out of here. Now, what awaits me out there, okay, but I have a little bit of a support system. My father was definitely there because I spoke to people who was talking about they've been to shelters, so on and so forth, and I was preparing myself. All right, maybe I should do the shelter thing to make the hungry, like make sure that I'd stay on the grind and whatever. And then my sister wanted me to come stay with her in Florida. My aunt wanted me to come stay with her back in Connecticut. My father, my grandmother. I had 4 places wanting me, not to mention a female. So, but I'm talking strictly family. I had 4 places wanting me. I'm like, shelter, family, 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 family. Now I'll take family. Forget the shelter. I'm going to start off with a support system that's going to help me to be successful. Because what I found out, and I did some reading, I did some studying, that a lot of these people who came back, recidivism is because they started off behind. And when you start off behind the 8 ball, it's easy to succumb to something where you think you're going to get some fast money. And I'm like, I'm not setting myself up. When I got 4 places that want me, now I feel wanted. Accept. So,
who were some of the angels, or who were some of the people in your corner that it's not just steered you in the right direction, but respected your direction and was behind you 100%? Who were some of these individuals?
well, I got to give my father his props, because although he's hard, he's rough, he's tough, he gives you the truth uncut. Sometimes it's too abrasive, but when I needed him, he didn't turn his back on me. My sisters, they were there, not all the time when I wanted them, but mostly when I needed them. So I have a friend of mine, Donnell Dunn. That's like my brother. He was there. And without them, like when I came home, my sister was there at Southport in the front, boom, parked. You ain't taking no bus home. You going home with me. She was there. I had like my father used to deal with this lady. Her daughter's like a sister to me. She was there too. I had 2 rides.
See, that's amazing. So you had your relatives also as your family. For me, I had my relatives wasn't my family. It's people that's not related to me who became my family. But what were some of the obstacles? What were some of the obstacles that you had to hurdle when you were released?
To be perfectly honest with you, my biggest obstacle was me. Doubt. Because I'm very optimistic. But when I got home, and it's like 4 or 5 in the morning, because I still had the jailhouse. I'll get up and work out early in the morning and write letters to the brothers back, because I wanted to, like, listen, you ain't forgotten, because I knew how it felt to feel left, alone, abandoned, and I didn't want them to feel that way. But these are the times when I'm like, yo, what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do? And then an opportunity came. You know how you're signing up to work, and then someone calls you and says, well, if you have the opportunity to further your education, would you take it? I'm like, yeah. He was like, hold on a second. I'm on the phone with a college. I accepted it. I got a paralegal degree now, associate's degree. I learned so much law in prison, I was like, well, I might as well take it. That's an easy course for me. Right. Magna cum laude, I graduated. That was easy. So I'm like, listen, I got connected. My man, Donnell Dunn, that's like a brother to me, he connected me with Nestor Felix. Nestor Felix runs an organization called New Flex. So I told him my story. I ain't like, listen, this is what's going on with me. This is what happened. Now, my vision is to come home and to be able to help people and tell them about what I've been through, so that these kids who think they tough and they want to be this, that, and the third, listen, that's a movie you was watching. It don't end that way. Now, this is life. And so she took a chance with me to come coach. I coached in basketball in prison, so I knew some basketball too. So it's like, now I want to mentor. So it's like, we do mentoring through sports. Cool. Sports, mentoring, let's go. Through her, I met someone else, and they allowed me to do speaking engagements throughout Mount Vernon.
So these are some of the angels also. These are some of the people that opened specific doors for you that you wanted to open.
Yes.
So these are some of your angels also.
Yes. Nestor Felix is definitely an angel for me. Okay. And I went to some of these schools. It's amazing how I can talk about myself and how I impact people because of being authentic, being real, talking about what you've been through. I've been to church. I'm Muslim, but I went to church because my grandnephews were getting christened. And in church, a kid was like, yo, I know him. He talked at my school. And people stopped me on the street. And it's amazing because I went from people pointing at me on the street or pointing at me in the prison yard because of the things I've done that was bad, notorious. Negativity. Right. And now you got people pointing at me in church, pointing at me on the street and saying, he did this and it's good. And it's something that I can brag about. I have a wife now. My girlfriend from before I went to prison, I came back and got her. Okay. I got a 1-year-old daughter. Now I want to be able to have my people brag about what I do. I want my father to be able to tell his friends, oh, my son does this. and not be ashamed. My son, the drug dealer, who's going to brag about that? Like, no, my son goes out and he talks to youth. I go to colleges and I talk to colleges about solitary confinement also because I spent 6 years there.
Right.
So I've been able to make an impact on people and be able to express the word, and I became a voice for the voiceless.
How does it make you feel to articulate that love that little boy that's living in a single parent household? Remember the same love that you were searching and you thought that it was love, that negativity and you thought it was love. Now how does it make you feel that they can embrace the real reality of love via your language, via your voice?
It's an honor. I went to school. I was in Davis. I was in Davis School in Mount Vernon, and I was talking to a class, because sometimes I talk to auditoriums full of people. But I was in a class setting of about 17 people, and I was talking to them, and I'm like, listen, I understand how it feels when no one is listening to you. And it's like a light bulb went off in the kids' heads, because the kids doing this, that, and the third. I'm like, I know what it feels like to be ignored, and that's what they feel like. So now I'm listening to you. And that statement right there, silence. Mm-hmm. You got somebody on your side. All you have to do is recognize that I'm on your side. Let me know what you need and what you want, and I'll do my best to get it to you.
Do you ever feel alone now, being that you were incarcerated for all those years? Do you ever feel alone, and not alone because you're in a room by yourself, meaning alone because no one really understands the depth of darkness that you confided in you? Do you ever feel alone now?
Yeah, there's moments of confusion where I can be talking to my wife, my sister, my father, and it's like a disconnect because I think a certain way. And it's like they look at me like, yo, like, why do you think that way? Because the things that I went through, it's like I take certain things, and it's even hard to actually express. But when you've been gone for so long and you felt neglected, abandoned, when certain things happen, it like triggers
right.
some of them emotions, and it like you catch like a minor flashback.
Right.
And it's like, hold on, you getting ready to leave? Like there's certain things that you can't say to me without me like, hold on a second, you're about to exit out of my life. Because, I mean, it's weird, but I do my best. I'm really big on communication. So I do my best to express that, listen, I feel this way. And when this happens, I feel this way. Because part of the things that I learned that helped me to make myself human again were things dealing with communication. How you acknowledge your own triggers that cause you to do violence. And now that I can acknowledge my own triggers, I know when something rubs me the wrong way, and instead of allowing it to bring that spark of violence, I'm like, hold on a second. I'm going to tell this person that I didn't like this. It rubbed me the wrong way. Because a lot of times people do stuff unintentionally. They don't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm going to let you know and allow you to say, well, I didn't mean it that way. And then we can go from there. I did a lot of studying, and not saying I'm the brainiac, I know everything, but I do know that dealing with incarceration, a lot of our kids are dealing with drugs, and drugs will lead you to incarceration. A lot of our kids are dealing with miseducation, because it's not like they ain't going to school. A lot of them are going to school, but they're not being taught right. So because they're not being educated, it's like a unfair shift. Whereas you're being taught something that for some reason you can't properly understand. It's like being given the puzzle and the pieces are slightly altered so they don't really fit.
They don't fit.
So it's like, this is the only piece left. Why can't it fit? It's something. So because I can relate to that, I can relate to not being understood, I can actually convey it to them, and it's easier for them to understand me. And it's not like I could scientifically put it like this or like that. It's They just get me.
But proper to using or engaging in the selling of drugs. In your case, for instance, it was your mother. The decease of your mother caused some hatred to arise. And oftentimes not in society where we come from, our communities, they're single parent households. So this sometimes it increases or causes their hate, and it causes them to either use drugs to be numbed from that hate or that misunderstanding, or cause them to sell drugs from that hate or that misunderstanding. Sometimes I have to call people that I knew that was incarcerated just so I can be understood.
Right.
Because even the loved ones that I try to express myself to, they won't understand because they haven't been through those trials and tribulations. And this is why I asked you that question.
So I understand exactly where you're coming from. So that's why I put together a program that I felt, listen, I'm a pretty good guy. I came out pretty good. And it's not to brag, but a lot of people tell me, you came out with your sanity. And it's not a joke. By me being in the box for so many years, coming out with my sanity is a feat in itself. And I'm like, well, listen, I went through violence programs, which taught me the triggers. And it taught me how to express myself to people so that it wouldn't be a conflict. It's conflict resolution. I've been to drug programs, and I never taken a drug in my life, unless I was selling it. I didn't smoke weed, I didn't do any dope or any of that. But I understand the value of having a drug program, because you have kids that are under the influence of drugs and the alcohol program. So I took all these programs, even though I didn't, quote unquote, need it for my actual physical, like I didn't use it, but I needed it for the therapeutic purposes of it. Right. So it put me 12 steps. It's like I never drank. I wasn't a drinker. But the 12 steps taught me something.
But I want to talk about the phenomenal program that you're instituting now, helping our young minorities not to go from school to the cell. You see, so I want to know about your program called YES. What does the acronym stand for, and what is it? What is it about?
YES is Youth Empowering Selves. And my vision is to allow youths to go through these certain programs instead of, so it can be preventative. It's better to, how they say it, an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure, or something to that effect. So I'm like, well, listen, if I can take you through violence awareness, if I could take you through drug programs, if I could take you through learning how to be an entrepreneur, and I can do that now, then you understand that you have value. And now I can instill that self-esteem that you didn't have. When you, not you per se, but when the kid is coming up and they're in a broken home, someone's using drugs, someone's stealing from them, they can't eat, and they start looking outside. They don't feel loved. I'm trying to tell you, listen, love starts from within. Right, exactly. You love yourself, then you will do for yourself. And I need to give you the tools that you can do for yourself. So you take these programs, you know what triggers your hate or triggers you to do wrong. You are able to understand and deal with racism, because a lot of us experience racism, whether we know it or not, to one degree or another, and we go about it wrong. Job interviews, things of that nature. And letting them know, listen, when you go on a job interview, when you have a felony, it's a whole lot different from when you don't. So I'm telling you this because you don't have a felony, so let's not get one. Let's put ourselves in a position where we can have the proper tools, education, we can have programs that help us to understand ourselves.
So how could schools or organizations reach you for this particular program? Because it sounds like it's outstanding. It sounds like you have, it's like it acknowledges every facet of life. And it's a prevention measure. And this is what we need in today's society. We need prevention measures. So how could they reach you? How could they reach out to you if they want this for their children?
Well, on newflex.org, they have a mentoring part. You'll see a picture of me as one of the mentors, and then you can click on that. And then you can go to YES, and then you can see more about the program and see how that you can get it instilled into your school. Because my vision is to be able to get into schools and build leaders amongst the schools so that they can train other students to be leaders. Because if you have a goal, you have a vision, you have something to look forward to, then it's harder for you to be deterred. When you have nothing to look for and you have nothing to gain, then you can you go anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So remember that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I want people to know that I am a voice for the voiceless, the strength for the weak, and I represent every time that I speak.
Thank you for being on my show, Johnny. I appreciate you. Now it's time for me to drop a jewel. You will never find greatness searching outside of yourself. Greatness has to be within. This man has been through trials and tribulations, and he overcame all those hurdles. Watching him, you should understand now it's possible for you to do so also. Thank you for being here and watching Just a Jewel with Arthur Malik. Until next time, never forget to let your inner jewel shine.
Just a Jewel with our host, Arthur Malik.